Thank you for joining us today and congratulations on your Second Chance Act Award. We're here today to talk a little bit more about the Pay for Success initiative and what you can expect with your new grant. The speakers on today's webinar are Andre Bethia from the Bureau of Justice Assistance. We have Zafra Stork from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, Kelly Walsh from Urban Institute, and I am Sarah Wurzberg from the Council of State Governments Justice Center. So we're going to start with a little bit of an introduction and a recap of the fiscal year 21 Second Chance Welcome. We're going to then talk more specifically about the Pay for Success initiative and give you an overview of the grant award that you received. We're going to go into some post-award grants management and federal compliance pieces, which will be helpful tips on the financial and grants management side. We're going to talk a little bit about getting started and what you can expect in the next couple of months in your first year in the planning phase of the grant. We'll discuss next steps, and there will be time for questions and answers. Also, just as a reminder, when I had sent out the invitation to this, I had asked that if one of your team members was able to introduce who is on the call and just to talk about why you applied for the grant, that would be really great. We want to start having you all get to know each other. So letting you know, that'll come up a little bit later in the webinar. So we're going to start with introductions, and I will turn it over to Andre to lead this part.
Thank you, Sarah. Good afternoon. My name is Andre Bethia, and I am the Policy Advisor for Second Chance Act Pay for Success initiative here at the Bureau of Justice Assistance, or BJA. Bureau of Justice Assistance is located within the Office of Justice Programs, or OJP. OJP provides a wide range of services to criminal justice agencies in the form of grants, training, technical assistance, and research. Although our focus today is on BJA funding, there are other OJP offices shown on this slide that offer additional grants and programs to support our shared public safety mission. The COPS Office and the Office on Violence Against Women are two other DOJ components that provide important resources for the criminal justice community. First off, congratulations on your grant award. You have succeeded in securing grant funding in a very competitive year. Your applications were screened for basic minimum requirements, were reviewed, rated, and scored by panels of external peer reviews and an internal review by BJA staff. You were recommended to the Assistant Attorney General for funding, so congratulations on your award. We're excited to work with you to plan and implement the Second Chance Act, or SCA Pay for Success, as you'll hear me say. The grant program provides assistance to price, write, negotiate, fund, and manage contracts that pay for these services in a way that ensures accountability and incentivizes improved performance over time. So that's expectations. Let's talk a little bit about the expectations of you. Since each program was reviewed and selected based on criteria that uniquely qualified them as most competitive, I want to lay out some very specific expectations that we have of you, meaning BJA. We expect you to think about how outcomes-based contracting can support the program to lower recidivism, decrease homelessness, and address substance use disorders. All three. That you will take on the planning processes in all the grants and engage with your technical assistant or TA coach on the analysis. You will meet them later. You already met Sarah. You will meet Kelly. You will enter in outcomes-based contracting either for reentry services using a validated risk tool or to provide permanent supportive housing or recovery housing. We expect you to manage performance-based contracting, including data, reporting, and performance measurement. Ensure government staff and service providers have adequate training on Second Chance Act Pay for Success procurement, the intervention, data, and outcomes validation for the contracts. We at BJA expect you will seek help when help is needed and to communicate regularly with your TA coaches and BJA staff. My other colleague, Zafra Stark, will present later on. She's also working with you if you haven't already met her. You will have a staff policy advisor, just mentioned Dr. Stork, from our programs office who will help you with budget and grants management, and I will help you on the policy side. Now, in a real contract, right, there's expectations for both sides. So on the BJ end, your expectation of us, you can expect that we will support and assist you as you set out to reach the goals to enhance your systems and reach program goals. We want you and your staff to have the necessary tools to serve this critically underserved population to help your communities. Both the BJA program staff and policy staff will be responsive to your inquiries as they arise. The CSG Justice Center is the technical assistance provider for the Second Chance Act Pay for Success grantees, with support for some grantees from their sub-awardee, the Urban Institute. Each of you will have a TA coach assigned to you, and we expect them to call you, email you, challenge you, and support you. Next slide, please. BJA's mission: provide leadership and services in grant administration and criminal justice policy development to support local, state, and tribal law enforcement in achieving safer communities. Passed in 2018, the Second Chance Act, the Second Chance Reauthorization Act, builds on and strengthens the initial landmark legislation that was originally passed in 2008. To date, $500 million plus in grants to develop, implement, and test strategies. The Second Chance Act and the Pay for Success grant track support state, local, and tribal governments in their work to reduce recidivism and improve outcomes for youth and adults leaving detention and incarceration to return to their communities. BJA provides grant funding through seed money, proof of concept, and to expand and enhance existing programs. The provisions of training and technical assistance to grantees ensures implementation with fidelity and aligned with research and with project management content expertise. The National Reentry Resource Center is there to support Second Chance Act training and technical assistance providers in the reentry field. Again, the National Reentry Resource Center, or NRRC, is a collaborative project of BJA and OJJDP being the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, to advance the knowledge base of the reentry field. That means supporting agencies and organizations like yours, criminal justice agencies that are in a position to prepare people for or supervise people in reentry and community-based organizations who provide services and support to the people in reentry, as well as individuals seeking information about where and how to find such support. The NRRC also serves as a convener and coordinator of Second Chance Act grantees. I'm at time. This year, there are 6 Pay for Success grantees from and around the country. Your funder, as we discussed, is BJA. Your TTA provider is the CSG Justice Center. The NRRC is supported by the American Institute for Research. Right? That's a lot, but we'll break it down. Back to you, Sarah.
Thanks so much, Andre. So yes, as Andre mentioned, we are the lead training and technical assistance provider. I work at an agency called the Council of State Governments. We're a national, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to all three branches of government. And at the Justice Center, we work on criminal justice, data-driven, and policy solutions. And so part of our work is actually overseeing for the Second Chance Act, behavioral health, housing, and family support training and technical assistance. So the Pay for Success grantees are one of the grantees we work with amongst other grantees focused on behavioral health and family supports. And we're really here to be a sounding board, to provide content expertise, to help support in project management and walk through the grant processes with you as we go. We'll also be able to share connection to peers and other experts in the field. And our partner, as part of this effort to expand our expertise pool, I'll hand it over to Kelly to introduce Urban Institute and her work.
Great, thank you, Sarah, and thanks to everyone that's joined the webinar today. So the Urban Institute is a nonprofit research, evaluation, and technical assistance provider. The Institute mission is to open minds and shape decisions and offer solutions primarily through economic and social policy research. Myself and my team here at Urban, we have a long history of working with places exploring outcomes-based contracting to improve justice and housing outcomes. Both in the role of an evaluator themselves to help measure success for these programs, but also as the technical assistance provider to come in and guide and help answer questions you might have as you work through the analyses you need to do to launch an outcomes-based contract for this work. Urban itself is organized into multiple centers with a focus on criminal justice system, on housing, and on health. And as your work progresses, you can think of us as a subject matter resource across those domains. So don't hesitate to raise up questions that you might have about best practices or the latest research. And overall, we're just really pleased to be partnering with CSG on this TA and supporting their work, and really just looking forward to engaging with all of you here today.
Thanks so much, Kelly. So let's talk a little bit more about training and technical assistance. So for each of the grant programs, we will assign a TA coach or a TA provider. They'll be the primary point of contact that you'll be speaking to on your monthly training and technical assistance calls. We also support a lot of peer learning. So on this webinar, you'll notice that we want you all to start introducing yourselves and get connected. And as Andre mentioned, and we'll talk more about later, there's also past cohorts of grantees doing similar projects to you. So they might be a couple of steps ahead of where you are in the process. We'll provide access to experts from our organization, from Urban Institute, and other partners or people in the field who are great resources. We also work to provide resources and tools. So if it's an issue that's coming up across multiple sites, we can help develop short 2-page guidance or a larger tool that will actually help in the future to decrease some of these issues that you might be having in your grant program. So your TA coach is really the air traffic controller. They really help direct all of your training and technical assistance activities. So you'll be on monthly calls and they will support on the development of the 3 deliverables, which we'll get into in much more detail later. They'll provide resources. So if you have a question on, what are some of the best practices related to permanent supportive housing, they can share some resources on that. We have peer learning opportunities. So like on this call, there will be sessions where you can talk to your peers. We're actually pretty excited because in April coming up is Second Chance Month, and there will be a grantee convening where you'll get to talk to your colleagues here, but also from other grant years as well. And so that will be a great opportunity. And through that, we'll also hold some learning community sessions. So we've got a couple of great learning community sessions scheduled in the future on housing for those of you who are focused on permanent supportive housing or recovery housing, or even reentry. Those would probably be of interest. And then when possible, we'll be able to do site visits to some of the grantees. So we'll come on site, we'll try to work through the issues with you in person. That's a good opportunity to just really focus on moving the project forward. And those lately have been done virtually. It is possible they might be in person in the future, we hope. So we actually have a poll. Have you ever had a BJA award before? If you could fill out the poll, that would be really helpful, just so we get a better sense for how much experience you all have as a group. So it asks both about a BJA award or a second chance award. So maybe you've had a BJA award, but in a different grant type of grant. So I'm going to give you just another few seconds to answer this one, and then we can share the results. Okay, so it looks like, almost 70% have had a previous BJA award. So some of you are, it sounds like a lot of you are very seasoned in this space, and maybe some of those processes that you learned from those other grants will come in handy. Although it was about 70%, only 40% have actually had a second chance award. So this might be a little bit different than some of the other awards you might have had through BJA. And this webinar will really be a first step in walking you through some of the processes for the grant. So we're excited to share that information to make the process as easy as possible as you start onboarding to this new opportunity. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Second Chance Act Pay for Success initiative in more depth. And I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Andre, again, to talk more about it.
Thank you, Sarah. Pay for Success is performance-based and outcomes-based programming that ties payment for services to reaching agreed upon goals. Under this initiative, services that may be purchased include permanent supportive and recovery housing, as well as other types of reentry services, which are tailored to individuals leaving incarceration, particularly those with substance use disorders.
Okay, so I think I am going to cover this one, and I feel like the slides might have jumped order here a little bit, but we wanted to again congratulate all of you on your awards. And as we had said in the email that invited you to this, we'd love for you all to just share why you applied for that. So why you applied for this grant, and if you have any information that you're able to share on the grant project, like what your focus is. So if you're reentry housing, recovery housing, or permanent supportive housing, that would be great. So I'm just gonna go with the order on this slide. So hopefully we have someone from each of the teams available. Is there anyone available from Cook County Sheriff's Office to start off here? And feel free to unmute yourself to talk. So I see a couple of folks on from Cook County Sheriff's Office. We can, oh, I see. Okay. Thank you, Rebecca, for chatting in. You're having some sound difficulty. Is there anyone else from the Cook County Sheriff's Office that wants to talk a little bit about your grant program and do a brief introduction of the team? Oh, I'm so sorry. Tech issues abound in Cook County today, unfortunately.
This is Cherie Ariozola Martinez. I'll try to give it a shot. I'm a little bit newer to the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Hopefully I do Becky justice. And Marianne, if you're on, you have comments, feel free to add. But I think one of the issues that we're seeing is the ability to, I think a lot of the services that are available to people coming out, are often funded by grants that other agencies are designing. And I think there's more power and accountability and when you're in charge of the payments and how you want that to be structured. Also in terms of immediacy, I don't even know if that's a word, but like in terms of when people are coming out, that immediate linkage, when they're coming out, I think payment kind of drives that, because if you're the one paying for that, then you're able to ensure that there's immediate linkage. I think it's kind of synonymous or similar to how the managed care and Medicaid contract with different providers. And by doing so, they're able to just have more control. And I think we're trying to figure out how to kind of have a similar payment method on the justice side, specifically because Medicaid doesn't cover the social determinants of health, housing, employment, and those things are needed. So I think we're trying to figure out a different payment structure that incentivizes the services that we see we need and the way we want them to be provided. So I hope I did our team justice. We have Rebecca Levin, who is the executive director for public policy, who's really the champion who applied for this funding, along with Marianne Kelly, who's our assistant executive director of our community resource center. The sheriff created the community resource center in the midst of COVID to be like a landing pad for folks coming out, because, you know, in Cook County and I'm sure other jurisdictions, there's just not enough time to do linkage when people are coming out. There's only, you know, 1 to 4 hour notice that someone's going to be coming out. So this would be another landing pad for people to get some additional resources. Also James Arneson, who's our grants guru. And so we're really excited. We haven't really dipped into grant funding as much as I feel like we should. And we're hoping to make a change starting with this grant. So I hope I did the team justice, but that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you so much for sharing, and sorry to hear about the tech difficulties for the other team members. If there's anything else you would like to add, please feel free to chat it in the chat box. Next, we'd love to hear from Lackawanna County government in Pennsylvania, and I hope that I pronounced your county's name correctly. And so Rebecca from Cook County also indicated Bradley Bullock from Task, which is their community-based service provider partner, is also on the line. So thank you for joining. Is there anyone from Lackawanna County who's on the line that would just be able to share why you applied for the grant? Okay, if not, we will go to the next group, and they are focused on recovery housing for their grant opportunity. How about Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections? Anyone able to share from your team?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Galley. I'm the Chief of the Bureau of Community Sanctions within ODRC, and we're excited for this opportunity. We have permanent supportive housing, and we have a contract with Corporation of Supportive Housing already, and we saw this as a fantastic opportunity to expand those services and the partnership with Corporation of Supportive Housing into other geographical counties not covered in Ohio. So we have 88 counties, and I can't remember exactly how many counties we have covered with permanent supportive housing. It's probably less than 15. So this will allow us to expand into some of the more rural areas. And we were also excited about the outcome-based component of this. We currently do not have an outcome-based contract, so we're looking forward to exploring that and seeing how that goes. And we were able to partner with the University of Notre Dame for the research component of this, so we're very excited about that. Terry Power is on the call here today. She's representing Corporation of Supportive Housing. And I also have two of my coworkers from DRC, Stephanie Starr and Dion Addison, are also here listening. If any of them have anything to add, although they all threw me under the bus and made me get up here and talk. So we're excited about the opportunity and looking forward to learning. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and we appreciate you. We know it can be hard getting thrown into these situations, but we also just want to make sure that you get to hear from all your colleagues about the interesting program that they're hoping to launch. So welcome to the Ohio team. Do we have anyone who wants to speak on behalf of the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections project? So there we go. Hi.
It's Louis Resto. I have a colleague that we kind of threw under the bus, as Christopher said. So I'm waiting for her to chime in. If she doesn't, then I was gladly. Oh, she cannot get off of mute. Okay. So I guess it's up to me.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Am I unmuted now, Louis? Yay,
Yes.
it was the star
Yes.
67. Okay. Apologies, folks. And I'm also having video issues, so you don't get to see me here in my glamorous cube at DOC. But a little bit about our project. So DOC already has a housing assistance program. However, it does not serve hard to serve individuals. These are typically individuals who do not have an income. So those individuals might stay in a community corrections facility after they leave prison. They may stay there a year or more. So being at a community corrections facility, it costs $83 a day for the state on average. That's $2,500 a month. At the time we wrote our application, 13% of all the people in community corrections facilities in Pennsylvania had been there 6 months to 1 year. So obviously, if we can figure out a way to get these folks into permanent housing, that not only is a better outcome for them, but it also saves the taxpayers some money. So our grant is focusing on providing incentives to housing providers who agree to serve that hard to serve population. We are trying to figure out a way to make one of our milestone payments the permanency of that housing placement that they find. So we're looking forward to figuring out ways to word that correctly and make that a milestone. You heard from Louis Resto, who's on the team. Sue Duff is also on the team, and we are working towards hiring a housing coordinator that will be a permanent position here, and we'll work with a as yet to be identified TA provider who's going to provide us, in addition to what CSG is doing, is going to give us a lot of hand-holding and teach us about the process of writing those contracts. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here and sharing about your program, and also focused on housing. So we have a lot of folks focusing on housing, which is great. Can I invite a team member from Pima County, Arizona, to talk a little bit about your project or why you applied for the grant?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Martinez, and I work for Pima County Department of Justice Services. And on the call is also Melanie Davis, who works for Pima County Grants and Innovations Department. She offers support and offered support during the application process. I believe we're the only two on this call. And a little bit about our project. We're just coming off our 2-year pilot program. This was funded by Pima County for 2 years in partnership with the City of Tucson. It's a permanent supported housing program. The City of Tucson provided housing choice vouchers to place these folks on permanent housing. We also partner with a local nonprofit called Old Pueblo Community Services, who provided supported services, bridge housing, and all those things. So we did have an evaluator, which is the RAND Corporation, that provided us with a final report. And we were looking for ways to continue the program and make it a permanent program in our community. So this is one way to find some sustainable effort in that regard. we've made, and we also saw an opportunity to make some changes to the pilot program. So we've incorporated other metrics into the performance-based contracts with our partners that provide the supported services. We're also looking at, in this grant, this particular grant, as we continue, we're also looking for not only new performance metrics, but also ways that we can incorporate or manage our waiting list a little bit more efficiently when it comes to incorporating validated assessment tools. So that's another thing that we have written into this grant, infusing some trauma-informed care, and last but not least, implementing some sort of phase in graduation. One of the things that we learned in the pilot phase was there were people that were coming out of our Pima County jail, were homeless, received the supported services, received a housing voucher, got their lives back together, but there wasn't really an end to the program in any way. So we're incorporating sort of a graduation phase to this program as well. That will also help us liberate some of these vouchers that we can recycle and use with other folks. So lots of exciting changes coming up. So we're grateful for this opportunity and looking forward to what's next.
Thanks so much, and great to hear about the pilot phase. It sounds like a lot of lessons learned that hopefully you'll be able to share with some of the other sites at some point too.
Awesome.
So last but certainly not least is the Massachusetts Executive Office of the Trial Court. Do we have anyone from the Massachusetts team that would be able to share a bit about your grant program?
Hi, everyone. My name is Marisa Torillo, and I am a grant coordinator in the Executive Office of the Trial Court. I just want to say I'm sitting in today for Jessica Fix, who is our senior grant manager and is on vacation this week, so she wasn't able to join us. With me today is the Deputy Commissioner of Programs for the Massachusetts Probation Service. His name's Michael Coelho. We also have Jennifer Alonso, who is our fiscal administrator in the Executive Office. We have Hannah Dahlman, who is a master's in social work intern working, she's from Boston University and is working in the Executive Office of the Trial Court. And also we have a representative from our partner organization in this grant, which is an organization called ROCA, and that is Scott Scharfenberg, and he is ROCA's Executive Vice President for New England. And I'm hoping the Deputy Commissioner is going to speak a little bit more about our project.
Great, thanks, Marisa. And I'll also give Scott a chance to add his perspective as our community-based service provider. So the Massachusetts Probation Service has been, our focus is on sort of partnering with a community-based provider to do this kind of payment structure for transitional employment and cognitive behavioral therapy for high-risk emerging adults. And so we were the recipients of technical assistance from the Cal State governments during a Justice Reinvestment Initiative back in 2016, 2017. One of the recommendations was to conduct more of this type of programming for emerging adults who are high risk. And so, this is following up on that recommendation. We've worked in the past with ROCA on previous attempts for Pace to Success, more sort of the social financing bonding type of efforts that started over 10 years ago. We've also, I also oversee our community justice support centers, which has statutory language to do some performance-based contracting. And so we've learned a lot from those two initiatives over the last 10 years about what's working and what doesn't when it comes to this model. And so this helps us, one, sustain our work with the sort of the state financing that bond effort ending, and also allows us to sort of tweak the model and help sort of each other meet a number of different outcomes. I think our lesson learned from the initial social financing effort that started over 10 years ago with the state government was we had sort of almost like a zero sum, one outcome only would be payable. And that was insufficient, I think, and short-sighted. And so I think the new model that we're working here with your assistance and with the federal grant, I think helps cover a variety of different outputs and outcomes that we measure that can help achieve success. So really just a chance for us to refine our model and refine and improve upon previous attempts at this kind of performance-based contracting. And Roka has been a terrific partner for many years on different initiatives with emerging adults. And we're very happy that we continue to work with them. Scott, I don't know if you want to add a little bit more about what Roka does and how you do it. So
Sure. Thanks,
In the
Mike.
interest of time, we would like to move on. We have a great deal of information. And Scott, thank you so much for being willing to speak as Roka, and you have other SCA grants, but in the interest of time, we're going to have to move forward. I thank
No
you
problem.
all.
sorry, Scott, I did it again. I talked too long, buddy.
It's all right, Mike. It's all right.
Sarah, please proceed. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We'll also have other opportunities for you to connect with each other, including in Second Chance Month, as I mentioned. Okay. So Andre, I think it's actually back to you to go over the program objectives.
All right, everyone. Now you're going to find out that I'm a fast-talking New Yorker because we are a little bit behind schedule and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'm going to kind of do a schmeal through so that we can get to Zafra, who has some really good information that you need, especially for starting off. So in case of Pay for Success, right, it's performance-based and outcomes-based programming that ties payment for services to reaching agreed upon goals. We can go to slide 19. And clearly we had two categories, right? One was discussed permanent supportive housing or reentry services, and then there was a separate category for recovered housing. Everyone, for the most part, is in category one, with the exception of Lackawanna County. They are the identified grantee in the space of category two. Next slide. So again, with category one, outcomes-based contracting for permanent supportive housing or reentry services, we're looking and hoping that you look at validated risk assessments tools, that the individuals that you're looking to serve, the clients, are moderate to high risk to reoffend in the community. We're talking about managing performance-based or outcomes-based reentry services or permanent supportive housing contracts. Many of you have already stated that you have dibbled and dabbled in the space, probably would be much more knowledgeable about what has happened at the beginning versus now. And there's a unique piece that will be a part of this particular initiative. So I'm requesting up front that everyone is willing to be nimble and flexible as we kind of move on. And lastly, on this slide, I just want to make sure that we ensure that the government staff and service providers have adequate training on performance-based or outcomes-based procurement. That is important, and outcomes validation. Next slide. So there are 5 deliverables for reentry or permanent supportive housing, and we will circle back and make sure that you have all of them. Nothing new on this slide is anything different that has not already been discussed in the solicitation. So happy to regurgitate it if you're necessary, and I'm sure you will find most of my emails to you from the policy perspective will refer back to this. So next slide. Again, outcomes-based contracting for recovery housing. The same, it only applies to Lackawanna in this case because they're the only category, they're the only grantee that fits that category. Chances are we will go through this over and over again as we learn to work together. It's always great to have the solicitation language, which is what you see, and we're going to constantly reference this throughout our time together. Next slide. Then we're getting into deliverables. Again, nothing new up here. When you apply for the grant, this is all was identified inside of the grant, and we are always going to be looking for this information from you. Each and everything must be done to qualify successful completion of this program. A large part of it is up front. There will be a planning process. There will be an implementation process. We expect your cooperation from you and your team throughout. Next slide. Investments improvements. Again, use of data analysis for outcomes and select payment and determination of contract structure, clear identification of the target population through data. We don't want to be capricious here. We want to make sure that you are identifying who uniquely fits this target area. Ongoing reporting on the contract through the terms, reports, and contract progress through your TTA provider. Again, it's essential that you understand how to work with us at BJA, as well as our TA providers, CSG Justice Center, and for those of you who will be having some access to the Urban Institute with Kelly Walsh. All right, Zocker, you on. My apologies for moving fast. Again, this is nothing new. It's all in solicitation, and we will be providing this particular slide to you.
Hello, thank you, Andre. And it's exciting to see all of you. I've been in communication with many of you. It's also nice for you to see the rest of the team members. You'll often hear me discuss that I'm working with the rest of the team to get information from you. I'll be talking a little bit about administrative and financial foundation. And I think many of you feel like you might be in a holding pattern now, and we have a built-in planning component of this award. And this is an opportunity which I would argue is just as important, or at least it allows you to establish a foundation to have administratively and financially sound programs. And I'm going to cover this really quickly. You have the slides, all the resources. I'll let you know where to get them, and I'll be working closely with you. One thing I talk about often, and I'm going to move on to the next slide, is special conditions. Next slide, please. Special conditions are terms and conditions that are included in all awards. This is where we get to let you know what the requirements of your award are. And they cover things such as consultant rates, how much you can pay your staff, what information you have to give us if you change important components of your program, and that there are several special conditions that are on all DOJ awards. This next slide, I'm going to be able to show you how to see those special conditions. And as a grantee, it's your responsibility to become familiar with these special conditions. Like Andre said, the solicitation is the document of record in terms of deliverables, and special conditions would be the document of record for all your award requirements that you will be held to. Next slide, please. All right, so here's how you can access your special conditions. You want to go to your award page, and this begin button that I circled here, it's a red circle that shows it's across from programmatic. This is how you get out of read only, and then you can click on special conditions. Your special conditions are also in your award acceptance, and it writes out everything. There might be 40 of them, and these are really important again. And some of these are withholding special conditions. I'm going to talk about that a little bit on the next slide. All right. So here's where you see the award special conditions. You can also see them in the award package. It's important to really take the time also while I'm on here for you to get to know Just Grants. We have trainings, and it's just important to get to know Just Grants and how it works. It's a new system for us, and it can be quite challenging. On this slide, you can see that the words that go across: award package, special conditions, award details, attachments, performance management. These all help you work within your grant to get information. So you know when your performance reports are due, when your financial reports are due, how to submit a GAM, how to look at your special conditions. We can go on to the next slide. All right, I talked quickly already about withholding special conditions. All of you have action plan requirements that allow you only $200,000 until you finish your action plan. And you're gonna work with not Vera as this slide says, but you're gonna be working with CSG to develop that plan. The takeaway here is get to know what your special conditions are. Reach out to me if you think you've addressed one of the conditions. Many of you already have approved budgets, and I've been working on helping resolve those special conditions. I'll reach out to you if you were missing information that is needed in your special conditions to address special conditions. All right, I'm ready for the next slide. All right, progress reports. For this award, they're due semi-annually. You do those in Just Grants. And it's important to understand that if you submit a report late, the program, Just Grants, will automatically freeze your account, as well as late reporting can and does count into your assessment of risk as a grantee. So that's one thing that I encourage grantees to make sure that they do is timely reporting, because it can affect your access to funds as well as our assessment of you as a grantee and your risk level. Next slide. So while progress reports are due semi-annually, financial reports are due quarterly and also done in Just Grants. Same thing, report on time. If you don't, your money will be frozen. Next. Many of you are awardees and past awardees of Just Grants. Not Just Grants, of BJA, so you're familiar with the financial training. This is required. It's 24 modules. Right now it's done online. And if you have completed it, but not in a while, you need to do so every 3 years. This would be for the point of contact in Just Grants and the financial point of contact. So the grant award administrator and the financial manager. Those are the two new roles in Just Grants. I'm ready for the next slide. All right, sub-awards and procurement contracts. This is a really important thing that you want to make sure you set the foundation for in the beginning, especially in these awards where you are going to be working with partners. One thing that's important to know is we are not concerned with what you use, so what instrument you use to develop that relationship, but that you do have an agreement, and that if you have a outside entity helping you provide an award deliverable, they're indeed a sub-award and therefore require that you monitor them. I can't tell you how many times grantees come to me 3-4 years down the award process, and they haven't established these agreements, and they're not clear on who's supposed to do what, and they don't have the requirements that are set forth in uniform guidance. So this really helps you in terms of making sure that you have an agreement that says what you're paying for, how you are going to pay them, and what the terms and deliverables are. We do not monitor your sub-awards, so we expect you to do so. Again, set that up. If you're not clear on what the requirements are, reach out to me. I have cheat sheets as well as resources within BJA to show you what these requirements are. Next. Okay, I pretty much covered that, but at minimum, you want to make sure that you have in your agreements stipulations for progress and financial reporting, that you have policies and procedures for monitoring, that these policies and procedures are based on risk, and that you have a plan that determines which subrecipients are monitored. Again, that there's a guide for that, and that it is risk-based, and a process for monitoring your subawards, which means that you have to have a checklist and a formal process, not just regular communication. Next. Some other things that you are probably familiar with, all subawards over 25,000 must be reported in FFATA. And if you have an award over 500,000, which all of these awards are, you're required to also report in FAPIS. These are noted in special conditions, and I can provide you more information as needed. But make sure that you're aware of these requirements. Again, you will be held to them. Next. All right, grant award modifications. If I didn't say earlier, I'm pretty much your point person for all these changes and all things administrative within Just Grants. So we understand that things change. If you need to make a change to your budget after it's been approved, or maybe a scope change. One thing that we get a lot of questions about is, hey, we started kind of late. What can we do about that? We understand that this award has been delayed, and we always give grantees at least 1 year of an extension. I talked about subawards, but I didn't talk much about sole sourcing. If you have a non-competitive procurement contract, which many of you will not, and it's over 250,000, you need to make sure that you do a sole source justification GAM. Also, you have to make sure that you do not pay consultants more than $650 a day without prior approval. And while we allow up to $650 a day without approval, you need to have documentation and a process in place that determines what that rate is. It shouldn't just be a blanket $650 per day for everyone. One thing that we've done in the past is if you're delinquent on reporting, we will not process change requests, such as GAMs. I'm ready for the next slide, please. All right, we do monitoring of our grantees. So we may reach out to you and do site visits, we do desk reviews, and our financial office also does monitoring. So again, another reason, take this time, set up those administrative and financial processes and foundations so that you do not have to do them on the back end. Not only are we monitoring you, but some of our government agencies that are higher up, the Inspector General might monitor you. Your audits might uncover things that you're not doing. Making sure that these administrative and financial processes are sound is as important as doing good programs. I often meet with TTA providers who tell me how great grantees are. And then when I visit, there are a lot of administrative and financial problems that make it hard to get past and trust that you're doing good programmatic programs that are sound, that we want you to do, that make changes in communities. Next. All right, here's resources. We have FAQs and let's see, there's even virtual Q&A sessions, lots of trainings, lots of resources. Get to know your resources. While I am your point person, a lot of these resources are available to you, so please get to know and become familiar with the resources. And I think this is the end of my section.
Thanks so much, Zafra. And next, Andre will actually go a little bit into the deliverables for the grant, which we did briefly touch on already, but he wants to make sure that you know the planning process here.
Yes, and this short time, thank you, Sarah. I'm going to focus on this one slide because it's the most important for you right now. You have 12 months planning process, right? And let's talk about responsibility. I'm well aware of your sub-awards. I'm well aware of the partnerships that you may have with them. However, this particular grant program, the government agency is the lead applicant. That is the individual, those are the individuals and entities that will be responsible for communicating as the lead. There will be no exception. Thank you. To that end, you have a 12-month planning process. You only have access to $200,000. That's it. There's no variation. There's no getting over it. There are a bunch of deliverables that you have to do in the planning process. We will not be circumventing anything. This is not a typical grant. As you know, most grants are about 36 months. This is not. This is larger than that. So we expect that you will walk with us, help us walk with you along our process to make sure you check all of the necessary boxes. As you see, there are many, and there are no surprises. All of this was in the solicitation. Let me remind you, that should be the piece that governs you. That will be the piece that will govern your planning and implementation guide. Dr. called it an action plan, same difference. Those are the things that we expect. You will be working with our TA coach. Work with your partners to complete deliverables. Once the 3 deliverables are approved, the special withholding conditions will be removed. In the interest of time, I can forego, again, the rest of the slides that talk about the service need and the other pieces. We will share all these slides with you. Our apologies in advance, right, at this point for going over time in terms of providing the information. But what I will guarantee is that we didn't provide anything new. It pretty much was an opportunity to regurgitate the solicitation that you already applied for. So again, thank you for your time. Sarah, you can use this opportunity as wisely as you think.
Okay, thanks so much, Andre. And yes, we'll follow up with you in the next few days to discuss this, but these are all of the requirements in the grant. So the next steps for this are going to be to contact the programs office, which is Zafra, if they're having any issues with your budget clearance. I know that some of you actually do have your budget cleared, so congrats on that piece. We at the Council of State Governments Justice Center will reach out to you again to follow up with this information and to set up monthly calls with us as your TTA provider. We'll, before that, have reviewed the information that you applied for, but we would love for that first call to just get to know you, your program, what your goals are, and we'll help set expectations for TTA and start talking about completing the planning deliverables, which is really 3 analyses related to target populations, the needs, the outcomes, and then development of the contract. We also just wanted to share with you that in April, there will be a lot of content through the National Reentry Resource Center for Second Chance Month. We will have a bunch of behavioral health, housing, and family supports. We'll also have a grantee and opportunities for you all to get together on the 28th and the 29th. So more to come on that. But we're really excited to talk to you as your TA provider, and then also to have the opportunity to meet again in April as well. So I know that we are basically at time. So I think we will unfortunately forego questions on this to be respectful of everyone's times. If you do have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. So this is the point of contact for everyone on the webinar. So Andre Bethia from the policy office, Zafra from the programs office. If you have reporting questions, there's a help desk for that. I'm Sarah Wurzberg from CSG or Kelly Walsh from Urban, but we will be in touch on Monday with follow-up from more about this information and about hearing from your TA coaches. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you to all of you for participating, and for those of you who had to do the cold introductions. We really appreciate you taking the time to share. We hope that all of you have a good day. Thanks for joining.